You ever wonder what makes you just compulsively check Instagram or scroll endlessly through TikTok? It's not some kind of magic, it's design. And today, we're going to break down the psychological framework that's behind it all, the hook model. We're going to see exactly how the biggest apps get you and then keep you hooked.
So let's be real. You've poured countless hours, maybe even thousands of lines of code, into building an incredible product. The code is clean, the UI is slick, but you're facing that one question that keeps every single developer and designer up at night. How do you get users to not just try your app, but actually make it a part of their daily life?
Well, the answer isn't just about adding more features or throwing more money at marketing. Nope. The most successful products, the ones that really last, they don't just solve a problem, they become a habit. They literally weave themselves into the fabric of our lives.
And that is exactly where this framework comes in. The hook model, which was developed by Eyal, is this elegant four-phase loop that explains exactly how to build these kinds of habit-forming products. Think of it like a roadmap for creating deep, meaningful user engagement.
The whole model is broken down into 4 pretty simple steps. You've got the trigger, the action, the variable reward, and finally, the investment. We're going to walk through each one step by step. So let's dive in.
All right, let's get into the first part of this loop. This section covers the first 2 absolutely crucial steps that really act as the engine of the habit. That's the trigger and the action. This is what gets the whole process started.
And that engine always starts with a trigger. Now, a trigger is just what it sounds like. It's a cue, a little nudge that tells the user, hey, do this next. It's the spark that ignites the entire process.
Okay, now this slide highlights something really important. There are 2 kinds of triggers. First, you have external triggers. These are the pings and notifications we all know and, well, that we all know. Like an email from your CI/CD pipeline saying your build failed. But the real magic, the ultimate goal for any product, is to attach to an internal trigger. You know, that little feeling of boredom that makes you open a social app, or that flicker of uncertainty that makes you check your deployment status. That's the holy grail of habit design.
So that trigger is designed to lead you straight to the next step, the action. And the key here, and I mean this is so important, is to make this action as effortless as possible. It has to be easier than thinking. Any friction, any little bit of mental effort, that's a barrier that can break the whole loop before it even gets going. And this just shows you how simple we're talking. It's that mindless scroll of a feed, that single click on a login with GitHub button, a swipe left or right. These actions require almost zero conscious thought, which makes them incredibly easy to perform. Okay, so we've triggered the user, and they've taken an action. Now for the second half of the model, which is all about keeping them in that loop. This is where we get to the core of what makes these products so sticky. It's the reward and the investment. This brings us to what is, in my opinion, the most powerful part of the entire model, the variable reward. See, after the user takes an action, you reward them, but here's the twist. It's not with the same predictable prize every single time. The reward has to be unpredictable. This slide lays it out perfectly. Fixed rewards, they get boring, fast. You know exactly what you're going to get. But variable rewards, they keep our brains absolutely captivated. That unpredictability creates this powerful sense of curiosity, a craving to see what we'll get next time. It's literally the same psychological principle that makes slot machines so addictive. And you see this principle everywhere in our world. You know, when you refresh your Dribble post, is it going to have 10 likes or 1,000? When you check your new open source project on GitHub, will it have 2 stars or 200? That feeling of, I wonder what I'll find? That's the variable reward, and that's what drives that compulsion to check again and again. And that brings us to the final and really critical step, investment. This is where you get the user to put something of their own into the system, their time, their data, their creative effort. And this is just brilliant, because not only does it make them more committed, it also sets up the next trigger. It makes the product more valuable to them, which makes the loop self-perpetuating. Just think about it. Every time you painstakingly configure your project dashboard, or you build up a following, or you contribute to a design system, you are making an investment. You're storing your own value inside that product, and that makes it so much harder to leave, and it loads the next trigger, because now you have a reason to come back and check on what you've built. That's what closes the loop. Now, look, this is an incredibly powerful model. You can see that. And with great power comes, well, you know the rest. We have to talk about responsibility. So let's look at how to use this whole framework ethically. As Eyal himself says, this is not about manipulation.
The whole point, the ultimate purpose of the hook model, should be to connect users to products that genuinely improve their lives. It's about using psychology to help people, not to exploit them.
And this right here is the key takeaway. You know the line between a helpful habit, like using a language app every day, and a harmful addiction? That's the line we as creators have to define and respect. The goal is to build products people want to use because they add real value, not products they feel like they can't stop using.
So as you go back to your code, back to your design files, I want you to keep this one question in mind. For your next feature, your next product, is it a hook for good? Does it genuinely help your users? Because really, the answer to that question doesn't just define your product's success, it defines your integrity as a creator.